before I start, I did some research on how to do a eulogy. What do you do? What do you say? How do you do it? And I realized two things after watching some of them. One, I didn't need any help. He kind of wrote the story for me. So, and the second one is that the audience at a memorial is some of the most forgiving and understanding people that you'll ever experience. So when I trip, when I cry, when I stumble, when I get lost, just understand it is, I will get through it. And so here's my eulogy from my dad. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to this life celebration for Richard Allen Bennett. My name is Jeff Bennett, and I'm proud and honored to say Richard was my dad. We all truly appreciate you coming to help us honor this great man. Thank you, one and all, for helping us celebrate his life. I stand before you, delivering a eulogy I wish to never give. I stand before you, speaking words I never wanted to speak. On a day I hoped and prayed would never come. But the path of life does not always go as you hoped. It does not always go as you wish. It does not always go as you pray. So I stand before you with wonderful memories of my dad and an immeasurable sadness that I have been told only time can help heal. I will quote direct words my dad wrote in a letter to his parents during a 2004 family ceremony at Grandma and Grandpa Bennett's graveside. I quote, "We have been told that time heals, and it does. Life goes on, and it does. Memories remain forever, and they do. And loved ones are missed, and you are." I cannot add anything to Dad's own words. They stand by themselves with no embellishment or explanation needed. Today, I will tell some stories about Dad. I will share some memories. I will talk about his family. I will laugh. I will cry. If the mood hits you to join me in the joys of Dad's life and the deep sorrow of his passing, join me in laughing hard and crying equally hard. Both are medicine for the soul. Richard Allen Bennett. Richard to some. Many knew him as Dick. Some knew him as the person who, once retired from the fire department, decided it was time to become a pilot. Many knew him as the guy who came and volunteered, as you've heard, for their organization. Some knew him as the guy who flew them to D.C. on an honor flight for World War II veterans and heroes. Some knew him as an experienced scuba diver who dove both leisurely and on the Springfield Fire Department underwater recovery team. Some knew him as the person who always had time to take your phone call. Some knew him as the man that always had time in Meyer to stop and talk to you, even if there was nothing specific actually to discuss. Many knew him as a career firefighter who twice won Firefighter of the Year award. Once for saving the lives of children stuck in a fire at a children's home, and the second award for his union duties to support and defend his brothers and sisters in uniform to improve both their personal and their professional lives. Some knew him as the retired firefighter who never forgot his brothers and sisters and frontline heroes in uniform and would always do everything he could to help and mentor those who followed him. Many knew him as the guy who was quick-witted and always ready to make you laugh, often with some self-deprecating humor that my dad loved. To some, he was family. He was so many things to so many people. He was an honorable man. He was a role model. Thank you, Dad, for being so much to so many. I recently watched a video of a motivational speaker, and he was speaking of time on this earth as it relates to people you love. He spoke of living remote from your parents, like I have from my dad and as my brother has, like many of us do, and considering that most people in this situation see their parents maybe once or twice in a year due to busy lives and cost of travel and so on. And for the purpose of this speech, to assume your loved one has 5 years left to live. This equates to only 5 times that you have left to actually spend time with your loved one. After a lifetime, you have a handful of times left to actually see your loved one, talk to them, eat dinner with them, laugh with them. One of my favorites, just sit and listen to my dad tell stories. The last time I saw my dad in person, prior to the events leading up to his passing, was March 2020 in Southport, North Carolina. I was working there, and we had all made it an annual quest for Dad and Denny to join us for a week while I was working there. These trips created some of my most cherished memories of my dad. I would not trade them for anything. But if I would have known in March 2020 that this was the last time I would spend time with him, what would I have done different? What would I have done if I knew this was the last time I was going to sit on a couch opposite him while he told me a story? If I only knew, I would have kissed his cheek one more time when we were saying goodbye at the airport. I would have hugged him a little longer. I would have told him I love him a little louder and a few more times. I would have told him how proud I was of him, and mostly I would have told him how lucky I was to have him as my dad. Excuse me. Dad believed in family. He cherished it. He would tell you that there was nothing more important than family. He believed family was the core of one's existence, that with family there is nothing you could not overcome. If there is anyone here who has a family member you no longer speak to, if you have a friend you no longer see, in honor of Richard Bennett, heal that chasm. There are no words that cannot be forgotten. There are no actions that cannot be forgiven. There are no wounds that cannot heal. Trust me when I say healing today is a whole lot better than regretting tomorrow. Now that I've opened the door to my dad's family, I would like to talk about each one individually. When I mention the name, if the family member could just stand up for just 1 second if you're able so everybody can see that person, and then I want to tell a little story about that person. Dad's sister Carol. You can just stand up real quick so everybody can see you. I love you, Carol.
I love you too.
My dear Aunt Carol, Dad's older sister. The last time I spoke to her, she told me that her and Dad were only 13 months apart. Pretty sure I never knew this fact. And it struck me that there is nobody on this earth that got to spend more time with my dad than his sister Carol. She got his whole 80 years, 11 months, and 12 days. I would not have wished for anyone better to have spent this time with my dad. Dad often told me since my Grandma Bennett passed away before I was born, I could see most of who Grandma Bennett was by being around my Aunt Carol. They were a lot alike. He loved you, Carol.
I love him.
Dad's brothers, Mike and Paul. Paul can't join us, but Mike, can you stand, please? Thank you, Mike, and thank you for your service. Dad had told me that the relationships with his brothers was so strong. It was built in their youth, built on the streets, running around with friends, looking for mischief. And I hear tell they often found it too. He talked about his brother's service to the country as U.S. Marines. Dad did this during times in our country where thankfulness for one's military service was not as cool as it is today. He loved Paul's willfulness as a youth and spoke of it oftentimes. He loved Mike's independence and his willingness to live life on his own terms. While they did not see each other a lot, they all knew the bedrock I talked of earlier existed under their feet. He loved both of you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Aunt Marilyn, can you stand for you? I love you. Dad's sister Marilyn, Dad's baby sister. He talked in his book. Did I mention Dad wrote a book? I may speak of that later. Of how protective the 3 boys were of their baby sister. Dad and Marilyn had both lived in Springfield their whole lives, and Dad had mentioned how he loved going to lunch with Marilyn. Dad knew his baby sister was a phone call away and that she would swim across the ocean if someone she loved needed help on the other side. He loved you, Marilyn. Dad's oldest son, Kevin. Kevin, can you stand? Dad's firstborn, his son. The person I look at most and see Dad in. Kevin has Dad's mannerisms. He has Dad's gift for gab. Dad's social skills and Dad's gift for a good story. Dad was so proud of the man Kevin became, of the dad he became. Dad loved to talk about the trips to Florida to see Kevin and his family, and I knew they meant the world to Kevin also. He loved you, Kevin. Dad's daughter, Sandy. You stand? Dad's baby girl. I have never seen Dad prouder of anyone than when Sandy B, he called her Sandy B no matter what her initials actually were, graduated nursing school. He organized a huge family gathering and party to celebrate. He never missed an opportunity to brag about his RN daughter. He loved you, Sandy, and was always your biggest cheerleader. I love you.
Off with that cheerleading outfit.
He did.
I loved it.
Dad's youngest son, Jeff. That's me. I'm not going to elaborate here. He loved me and was proud of me, and I will love him and miss him for the rest of my life. Dad's stepson, Corey. Is Corey here? Okay. There's no greater love of a parent than a love given not because of blood. Corey spent time with us at the hospital in Dad's final days and said to me he did not have to stay in my life. In speaking with Dad, Dad would not have had it any other way. He loved Corey and his family. Now we get to Dad's grandchildren and great-grandchildren. When I get to them, I'm going to ask them to stand also individually. Dad's grandchildren and great-grandchildren meant the world to him, and I want to mention each by name and briefly detail something about each. Notice the different names they all called him. He loved being Paps, Poppy, Papaw Fire Truck, Grandpa No Fingers, Papaw, all of you. You all now have an angel watching over you. Emily, please stand. Emily, firstborn grandchild, a nurse. I will never forget Paps lying in a hospital bed immediately after open heart surgery and telling the nurses about his grandchild, Emily, who was a nurse. Soon after this, Emily noticed an IV that was supposed to be connected to Dad that was not, a true lifesaver. It is a lasting memory for me of the love and pride that he had for Emily. Kyle. Firstborn grandson. Paps talked about Kyle as one of the hardest working people he knew. He loved when you came to the Carolinas and started working with me there, and he loved coming and visiting you there. He loved you, Kyle.
One of my favorites was the trip when we drove to Florida when I moved down there and he rode down with me.
Yeah. Daniel. Papaw Fire Truck called me one day and could not wait to tell me that Daniel was going in the Navy. Thank you for your service. The pride and excitement he had for Daniel was obvious, even over the phone. I also remember Papaw Fire Truck talking about teaching you to ride a bike. He was proud and loved you, Daniel. Kelly Michelle, you came into our world just for a moment. We know Paps is now holding you in his loving arms. Rest easy, our little angel. The next one is for Chase, who is my nephew, Kevin's son. And when I finish reading this, you'll understand why he's not here. You are not able to be with us today as you are now following in Poppy's footsteps as a hero and frontline worker as a brand new Oviedo, Florida firefighter. To say Poppy was proud would be the understatement of the century. Go forth and serve, Chase, and know Poppy is watching over you. I'm going to apologize. I'm about halfway through. I'm very verbose. Please bear with me. Penny told me yesterday if it goes too long, I'm getting the hook. I'm going to keep going until I see him coming with the hook. I'm going to keep talking. I apologize. I wrote this in an hour, and it's for the most part unedited. So, Haley, firstborn great-grandchild, another nurse in the making. Paps could not have been any prouder. I am sure you were his favorite nickel stealer ever. It's an inside joke. You'll see here a couple other inside jokes too. Jackson, my son, please stand. I know he was there with you 5 days ago when you finished the first chapter of your life and graduated high school as the school's valedictorian. And he will be with you as you begin your college career this August at Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. He expects big things from you, Jackson. He loves you. Eden. Poppy loved Eden's independence, her spirit, her athleticism, her work ethic. All things Poppy valued in life, Eden exhibits. Poppy loved you, Eden. Sawyer. Ohio Papal told me often that you were a carbon copy of your daddy. And he meant that in the most loving and proud way. Now, I don't know if he meant you're going to look like this for this. He never forgot Pie Day pizza. My birthday's March 14th, and we had a party in Southport. It was Pie Day pizza. He opened his own pizzeria in our condo. It was amazing. Papa loves you, Sawyer. Malachi, Ella, and Brady are Corey's children. I guess if he's not here.
Corey, I think walked in. I think I saw Corey come in.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he is.
Malachi, Ella, and Brady, Corey's children. Much like Dad did with Corey, Corey's children, Malachi, Ella, and Brady, knew only that he was a consistent presence in their lives. Trust me when I say they did not care one bit about DNA. He was and will always be their Grandpa No Fingers. Carson. Dad's first great-grandson. Paps often said Carson was an original. Unlike him before or after. He saw you following in the footsteps of your daddy as a future firefighter. I think we all agree with Paps on that. We love you. Kennedy. Paps loved this sweet little girl. From her quiet shyness to her beautiful laughter once she decided she no longer wanted to be shy around you. A pure joy. And she is such a green camel. Sorry, another inside joke. And lastly, Dad's love, Dad's friend, Dad's wife, affectionately known to us all as Miss Denny. I met you the first time as a young and dumb 20-something at the Bogey Inn in Columbus, Ohio. In my ignorance of youth, and likely a few Budweisers, I told you if you were looking for a husband, then you were barking up the wrong tree with my dad. Seemed like a good idea at the time. I have been wrong about a lot of things in my life, but never have I been happier about being wrong than I was about my words that day. You have been a blessing to our family and a true gift from God. We are thankful for you and the life and love you gave our dad. The last 30 plus years of his life were filled with laughter, joy, happiness, and love, and we have you to be thankful for that. We will all be eternally grateful, and we all love you. I did not include so many members of Dad's extended family, such as nieces and nephews and cousins and in-laws and close friends. He loved all of you. I also did not talk about George and Thelma, Dad's parents. I know they were waiting on Dad when he arrived in heaven, and I am thankful for them to giving him to all of us. As I worked on and finished writing the details about Dad's family, I came to a clearer realization of something I already knew. Nobody ever had to wonder if Dad was proud of you. You did not have to guess if he loved you. He took the time, either intentionally or just by the way he lived, to make sure everyone knew what and how he felt. Never once did anyone have to say, I wonder if he's proud of me. I wonder if he loves me. This is a gift we can all learn from Dad's life. Let us all make sure the people we love and are proud of know these things to be true without question. We as Dad's family have had the profound honor and the privilege to talk to so many people who had stories to tell about Dad. Everyone here has a story or stories about Dad. They are great stories, and we love hearing them, and we also love telling them. These are a few of my favorite personal stories. The first one's titled, Dad Wrote a Book. Told you it was coming. In 1999, Dad started writing a book about his life. He completed it on March 27th, 2001. I finished reading it for the first time probably on March 29th, 2001. As a result of my very young age when my parents divorced, my memory of the time together did not exist. Dad had often told me that lack of memory was a gift from God, as they were not the best of times. Regardless, the book filled the gaps, and I soaked it up like a dry sponge in a bucket of water. It painted a picture of Dad's childhood, which I had never heard about. Simply stated, it told a story of a life well lived. Since 2001, I have read his book cover to cover 3 more times. Every time, I get more appreciation of the man Dad was. The book was a work of tireless effort and dedication, and I thank you, Dad, for creating it. Next story is called Golf Trips with My Dad. Over several years in the 1990s and early 2000s, I went on golf trips with Dad and his friends. Many of his friends may be here with us today. One trip in particular stands out, maybe not for a good way. It was to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. At a lunch there, Dad thought it looked like a good idea to eat the pork barbecue that sat in a buffet tray in its likely own near room temperature grease. It was not long after that Dad was suffering in ways that you can imagine, but I'll refrain from detailing. He told me he knew it was bad when he got up at 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom, because we shared a room, and he found me sleeping on the front porch. The room was like a gas chamber. It is funny how bad memories can turn good and funny with time. I would give most anything to go on one more golf trip with my dad. The next story is called Losing My Tooth. I do not remember the year, and the details are likely tainted by passing years. But let me set the scene for you as I remember it. The Springfield Fire Department, Station 1. There was an office, someplace in that building that you went up a short flight of steps to access. It had a door. You see where this is going. If any of you firefighters want to tell me my memory's not accurate, don't bother. It's just a memory. I am sitting in a chair across the room with a long string of dental floss or some type of string tied to my loose tooth. The other end, yep, you guessed it, was tied to the door handle. I do not recall this medical procedure being a success or failure in removing my loose tooth, but I do recall my dad being the butt of firefighters' ridicule and teasing for years to come after that. As best I can recall, the Department of Children and Families was never contacted. The next story is called A Day Trip to Bald Head Island, North Carolina. No, this island is not named after me. Nor is the lighthouse there affectionately known as Old Baldy. Although my wife Lisa has several mementos stating otherwise. During a visit in 2019, me, Lisa, Dad, and Miss Denny all took the ferry there for a day. There were no cars on the island, but you can rent golf carts to drive around the island and see the sights. So we rented a golf cart for 2 hours, and Dad and Denny got on the back, and Dad was trying to fasten his seatbelt. Quite unsuccessfully, I might add. After many attempts and a fair amount of time, I helped him get the seatbelt on. Then I jokingly told him, "Okay, our 2 hours is up. Hope you had fun." It was a moment of incredible, intense laughter and a treasured memory. It makes me smile to this day. The next is a story from Miss Denny that I love, that she told me right after my dad passed away. And I'll just tell you the story. At a date and time that is unimportant to this story, Dad and Miss Denny were sitting in their home, and Denny told Dad she thought she heard something. Dad, always being the comedian and knowing Denny's very sensitive hearing, told her it was just someone closing their car door at Kroger's a few miles away. Dad digressed and went to the garage door to check on this noise. On the other side of the door, hanging on the screen door, was a raccoon. Talk about getting his heart pumping. Denny told me this story recently, and I'm not sure I have ever laughed harder thinking of Dad's reaction in trying to get that raccoon out of the garage. Well, except maybe the laughter in my next and last story. This story is called A Game of Pictionary. In our home in Ocala, Florida, Dad and Denny were visiting, and a game of Pictionary was started with Dad, Denny, my wife Lisa, and my sons Jackson and Sawyer. You never know when a true great memory will be created. During the game, Dad tried desperately to draw the pictures to get his partner, I believe Jackson was his partner, to guess the words with virtually no luck. Then it was my turn to draw with Sawyer as my partner, and the phrase I had to convey by drawing a picture was elbow grease. I drew a line similar to the outline of the back of one's arm, and Sawyer yelled out, "Elbow grease!" Dad completely lost it in the most hilarious way that we got this with one line. We all laughed ourselves into tears and hyperventilating. It was caught in both pictures and video. It was a memory I will carry with me until my time on earth is through. It makes me laugh to this day. If anyone after this, I'm going to play it. I have the video. If anyone wants to watch it, instead of playing it over the microphone, I'll let you watch it on my phone. I could stand up here for the rest of the day telling stories. I could stand up here all day talking about this great man, but I will not. Dad had told me on numerous occasions to never pass up a good opportunity to stop talking. So to that end, I'm not sure if that was, did you just ever say that to anybody else? Or this is just me. So to that end, let me close this by saying, to many here, he was family. To most, he was a valued and trusted friend or acquaintance. To a select and lucky few, he was Dad. We are your legacy, Dad. You have taught each of us well, and we will carry on your good name and uphold the values and the standards you taught us. We will make you proud. We could not have asked for a better dad and role model, and we all thank you for the wonderful memories you have left us with. So, Dad, on behalf of Kevin, Sandy, Corey, and myself, and all your friends and family gathered here today, we do not say goodbye. We wish you peace until we see you again. We will miss and love you for the rest of our lives. Rest easy, Dad, and I hope you are hitting them long and straight.